So hi, everybody. This is Betsy Hill, BrainWare Learning, and I want to welcome you to today's cognitive conversation. In this series, we explore the fascinating world of cognitive development and brain science and neuroscience research, and also try to make it very practical. We want hands-on applications as well as expert insights. So make sure to share your questions and observations in the chat below. We look forward to addressing them as they come up or at the end of our little talk. And today we are so excited because we have a real expert with us. Dr. Lou Whitaker, who also happens to be a very dear friend, is a veteran educator. She has served, really taught at just about every grade level from kindergarten probably through graduate school. And most recently, she served as the principal of St. John Paul II Catholic School in Florida. She's on the board of trustees of Florida Association of Supervision and Curriculum Development, which means she has just amazing insight into really what's going on in the whole world of education and leadership. And the way we met was because we both connected through studying with Dr. Patricia Wolf, who wrote a book called Brain Matters and has trained a group of individuals, and we refer to ourselves as the Brainy Bunch. So Lou, a fellow member of the Brainy Bunch, I want to welcome you today. We're so glad to have you here.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to do this. I love talking about learning and children and what we can do as educators to improve that.
Fantastic. Okay, so when that's a great point. And when you and I started our education careers, there wasn't any neuroscience research. We sort of made it up a little bit on our own based on the little that they could tell us about how to teach and things like that. And I still find today that a lot of teachers don't know much about brain science. So what do you think are the most important things that we've learned, that you've learned over the years of studying brain science, that teachers really need and educators, administrators need to understand?
It's amazing to me when I started really understanding neuroscience and how it affects learning and so forth, that there isn't a class for educators. That should be the first class we take, how the brain learns. That should be Neuroscience 101. And we just don't do that. I mean, like if you're a car salesman, you have to know all about the different styles of cars, the engines, what's involved in it. I'd be a terrible car salesman. I mean, I could do this car's red and that car's blue. That's about it, because I know nothing about the motors and engines and how they run. But as educators, we need to really understand how we learn, how the human runs, how our brains function. So if I have to stop and think about what are some of the most important things we really need to know is, first of all, it's absolutely critical to have your strong cognitive skills. Those cognitive skills are the basis of all learning. And unfortunately, a lot of our teachers really don't understand cognitive skills, yet alone how the brain learns. But they need to understand what the cognitive skills are, how the students can improve them, and how to really improve their learning. A second thing is we need to teach the way children learn, not your teaching style, but what is the way they learn, and present it that way. Students need to understand their individual strengths. Many of our students have no idea what their strengths and weaknesses are. By really focusing on their cognitive strengths, once we know their strengths, they can really soar with that. They can really improve their learning. Another thing I think educators need to understand is neuroplasticity, that you can change the brain. It is not constant. It's essential to develop a good growth mindset. And, depending on that self-esteem and their self-image is critical to how they learn. And they also need to be aware that, neuroscience is constantly changing, and to stay abreast of what's going on and how it relates to the classroom. So there's a lot we need to learn. A lot of
Certainly sounds like it. And so you talked about cognitive skills and the fact that most teachers really aren't aware of them. And I know you spend a lot of time, you combine that with neuroplasticity, which is the brain can change. And so you talked about knowing what students' strengths and weaknesses are, but we know that we can actually change those, so we can build those skills. And that's something that you're involved in. So can you tell us a little bit about how you first got involved with cognitive skill training and how you learned about it?
Yeah, it's it's a fascinating story. I want to say, Betsy, it's probably about 20 years ago when I first met you, and we were at the Pat Wolf, the Brainy Bunch, and you started talking about BrainWare Safari, and you demonstrated it to the group. And I was kind of fascinated because right away you had one up there, and I was going, "Oh, the answer's C, the answer's D," and they're like, "Oh, wow, Lou, you're really good." Well, I was good at that particular activity. Then they put another problem up there and they're yelling out the answer. Oh, it's C, it's D, and I'm like, what's the question? I mean, immediately I couldn't solve that problem. And I was like fascinated how these activities, these games were linked directly to those cognitive skills. So I took home a sample and started doing the games. Because being a principal, I'm always looking for new and innovative ways to improve our students in learning. But I'm not going to put anything into my school unless I really do the research and see, that it's a good program. So as I'm playing the games, some were easy, some were very difficult. There was one in particular that I could not get the little swimmer into the boat. I'm very weak in spatial perception, and I kept trying, and then it would say, "It's okay, Lou, you can do it. It's okay. Don't give up. Every time you do it, you get stronger." And my sons were at home at the time, and they're like, "Mom, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to get this stupid little swimmer in the boat. And I don't know how kids are going to do this." So after doing that, I thought, all right, let me just see. So I did some more research. I read all the white papers and research behind the program. But then once you said that Dr. Wolf endorsed the program, and she never endorses anything. So I thought, okay, there's got to be something here that's really good. But then again, I thought, all right, let's set up our own pilot program. Let's do our own testing in the school. So I came up with the idea to set up my own pilot program, and I called in 25 students, and we were a preschool through 8th grade, small elementary Catholic school. And I called in 25 parents. I said, "I've got this new program. It's called BrainWare Safari. I have no idea if it really works. It's claiming to really improve their cognitive skills within 12 weeks. I'm pretty impressed with it's a game-like format. It's a lot of fun, but I want to make sure that it's valuable." So we set up an after-school program. So it's 3 days a week for 12 weeks, and it was 45 minutes after school. Within the first month, I had parents coming in knocking at my door saying, "How do I get my kid in that program? I'm hearing the other parents talk about it and that they're seeing such an improvement." And we had only been in the program a month, so we really hadn't noticed much because the teachers are still working and learning the program themselves. So I said, "Oh, okay, this will be interesting." Then I had a dad walk in with a check, and he goes, here's a check for the next couple of kids that you need. I'm seeing such a difference in my daughter and her reading." We're like, whoa, okay. So I'm thinking there might be something really behind this. So after we did the 12 weeks and we tested it pre and post, and we saw such an improvement, I thought, wow, this is good. I really want to, and I had so many parents asking to be in the program. So I set up a second pilot program after school. And again, I had good results. And so I'm thinking, all right, there must be something here. I was so impressed with the results and what was happening in our classrooms, and our teachers loved it so much that we decided, all right, let's put it into our 3rd grade curriculum. It was during the school day, which is the best way to do it in this way. The only problem I had was complaints from parents in 4th through 8th grade. When is my kid going to get in this program? Why can't I do it? And so we just had extra programs after school, and it was volunteer for the parents to sign up, and those were filled. And it was a very successful program. So that's when I really saw how important it is to really develop the cognitive skills. What I also liked about the program was the fact that I was worried setting up in a lab situation where you have 25 kids sitting side by side that there would be competition, or I'm on this level and he's only on this level. And, there wasn't any of that, mainly because I walked in the one night, I was constantly monitoring the class. And I saw one little girl sitting on Piranha Pass. That's the one I couldn't do. And she was working on it. And I went over to her and I said, "Oh, Susie, how you doing? This is such a hard level." And she goes, "Oh, I'm okay." And he goes, "Yeah, you're doing all right?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm going to pass level 3 real quick." And I'm like, "Level 3?" I said, "I'm still on level 1." Well, what was interesting is for the adults to share, their own skills. And we really understood that all brains are different. Doesn't mean you're smarter than me or I'm smarter than you. Your brain is stronger in certain areas, and that's what we're looking for. So it helped the students understand that they all have strengths, and it's not the same as the person sitting next to them. So that was really
Yeah,
an
it's,
situation.
we hear that a lot. And my colleague Roger has joined us. Hey, Roger, how are you?
How is
Hi,
everybody?
Roger.
Hi, how are you? How are you? I
Hi.
saw had a client took me over a little bit, but I got to tell you guys, I don't know. Here in Chicago, where I'm at, I'm on the north side, and it is freezing. I just went outside to get a couple of things, and oh my God, I said, there's no, I'm not walking my 5 miles today, and I haven't walked it for the last 3 days because of this weather. Is
I
really,
think you, I think you better wait
I'm not going to
on
do.
that one. It's very, very, very cold.
You know,
Lou
you're
is
live.
fortunate. She's in Chicago.
No, Florida.
We're
You're
in
in
Florida,
Chicago.
right? We're in Chicago.
But it's cold down here. I'm wearing a sweater. We don't wear sweaters in Florida very often, but
Yeah,
and jeans. So it's
I
great.
heard.
I'm like,
I
it's a
heard.
little different.
It's been a little chilly down there. But Lou, really though, it's great to have you. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a lot on your plate, and I'll never forget the first time I heard about you. Actually, it was on a telephone call. I had called Betsy, and you guys were having a glass of wine or something. You and
Oh,
a number of people. There were a group, and I heard all about you right then. And you and Betsy had an opportunity to become fast friends. But
yes.
you're quite special on many levels, and so I'm so glad I've had an opportunity to get to engage you more as well. You know, Lou, I got to be honest with you. There's a number of things that befuddle me a little bit, but I've often said that it's ignorance is not the reason there's not more discovery. It's the illusion of knowledge. It's not ignorance. The greatest obstacle to discovery is not ignorance. It's the illusion of knowledge. And I'm just sitting here and I look at educators, and I know many of them, and I got some that are just right there with us. But as you know, in school, they don't teach you about teachers, how people learn. They teach you how to teach. If you find teachers that have really studied the art and science of learning, they've really done it on their own, independently of their degrees. And you're one of them, Betsy's one of them, many others. But why is it the majority of educators are not willing to embrace the concept of cognitive, not even willing to investigate the latent potential that rests within our students? Because we believe that the most underutilized asset in the learning and teaching process is the student. Yes, we all have the ability to learn. That's what human beings do. But our capacity for learning is shaped by our environment and our genetics and our life experiences. And I often tell parents, but the great news is today, I'm going to give you a big secret. It doesn't have to define you. For each of us are the CEO of You Inc. And if we want different, we can have different, but we got to do differently. So can you, maybe from an educator's perspective, why aren't they really even willing to investigate the concept that the student might just play a little bit of role in the learning and teaching process?
That's a good question. And I had mentioned earlier, um, unfortunately, in our colleges and when you learn to become a teacher, we really don't spend the time understanding how the brain learns. And that should be neuroscience 101. Once they understand that, then they have a whole different outlook. But what I really feel for our teachers, and I've really noticed it in these last few years, is the mandates that are coming down that are so strong from the state, from the school districts, from their principals, and so forth. And teachers are just trying to keep their head above water and trying to keep afloat. If they could understand and see the data that is connected and have them understand that the data that is related to the study of cognitive sciences and how they learn. What we really need are some, good leadership that has the freedom to do this. I just don't think there's enough hours in the day to, to cover all the things that we would like them. I mean, teachers really, they go into teaching to help students. They don't go into it for money or for the prestige, they really want to become good teachers, and they just don't understand. First of all, I think if you would ask teachers, can you name 10 cognitive skills? I don't think that they could do it, because they really don't understand what they are and how they affect learning. So I think it's got to start with the administration and those that are in good leadership position to understand how the brain learns, and then work from that point on. But it's a tough challenge.
Let me ask you, I was talking to a superintendent the other day, been a superintendent for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him the same question. Why do we never look at the latent potential of the learner? And he said, Roger, I think it comes down to, first of all, we're never taught about learning at the university level. That's number one.
Right.
And teachers, I don't think really, and I know you're probably going to find conflict with this, but, and I know that it's kind of a conflicting statement that they don't hold themselves in such ultra high regard, and especially K-12 teachers. This is how he was talking. And because he said, I think they believe, well, look, what I'm doing today in the classroom is what I did when I was a child. It worked for me. We didn't need cognitive skills and cognitive. It worked for me. Look at me. I got a degree. I came from an impoverished, but I got it. It worked for the system, worked for me. So if it worked for me and I'm nobody special, it should work for you. And if it's not working for you, it's not because the teaching's not working or the curriculum's not working. It's because you're lazy, because you don't work hard enough. You don't work to your potential. You got lousy parents. You're not fed properly. You're obstinate. I mean, everything in the world, because they just can't believe that it's not good enough for the student because it was good enough for them. What do you say to that, superintendent?
But not, I think that is the mindset of many of our educators. But I think once you really get to know the teachers, and if they had the freedom to really take time to understand how we learn. When we do our brain workshops, and we call them, teaching about the brain and how they learn, they're fascinated by it. They think it's fabulous. Oh, why didn't I learn about this earlier? But now that there are so many mandates going on, and so much of the staff development, it used to be, gosh, when I was a young educator, you want to go to a workshop? Boy, we'll provide the money and you can do it and so forth. Now you don't have the time and you don't have the money. So it's tough. It's a tough situation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the big deal is they've lost their way. School should be about learning. It shouldn't be about process and box checking. And they don't have this proper incentivized structure. In business, when you want people to do something, you structure their environment to motivate them to do what you want as an outcome. And there's no accountability for learning. And and I've been told this by a number of superintendents, Roger, the day they make my paycheck tied to student performance, you'll be the first guy I call. But I'm not paid for that. I'm paid, number one, I just want peace in the system. I want everybody to be happy, and I want to get a big pension. I'm not interested in rocking the boat. And I hear that a lot from leadership in education. They just don't look. Because another big thing that comes to my mind, I'd like for you to talk about. I was working with a U.S. senator here not too long ago, and you may recall we wrote a book. And your student learns differently. Now what? He read this book and he found it so amazing. He said, Roger, of all the billions of dollars that we talk about on education up here on the Hill, we never talk about considering the latent potential that rests within our students. We only, in education, it's only about two subject matters: choice and methodology, teaching methodology and choice. That's it. Outside, if we don't talk about those, we don't talk about education. But yet, and I said, I said, yeah, but our beliefs, maybe everybody else is different, but I don't think God made any junk. And he didn't start with any student you ever met or any student you ever will meet. I believe personally, there's a special little person inside each little person just trying to figure out how to step inside their best selves. And if you want to lower the stress and anxiety on educators, give them a classroom full of students that's easier for them to be taught and easier for them to learn. So tell me, why is it that those are the only two areas people talk about in leadership, is choice?
I think it's because of, I'm going back to those mandates again. You talk about policies and so forth. Politicians want votes. I mean, that's how they get into their position. And they want to please the parents. That's why school choice is such a big, you should be able to pick the school that you want. You should be able to do so-and-so. And so they started with all these mandates. It was up to me. We need to get politics out of education completely. Give it back to the educators. Then you would see some real growth and development. But they're getting pressure from the top all the way down, from the districts, from the administrators and so forth. And it really stood out. After I retired from my position, I just couldn't sit at home. I was going nuts. So I started substitute teaching and went into a third grade class. I liked this little third grade class. I'd been there before. And the teachers were having a meeting during the day, so they needed subs. They were in the building, but she came in and she, introduced herself. And she goes, "Okay, Lou, this is what we're doing. Here's the assignments. And if you have any questions, just ask Mrs. Smith or Mrs. Jones," because we were kind of connected because we're all on the same page. I said, how are you all on the same page? You've got that's 75 kids, all exactly at the same point. He goes, "Oh yeah, we have to be here on this day on this page." What happens to the kid that doesn't understand the concept? "Oh, well, we lose them along the way half the time." That kind of pressure, they do not understand how the brain learns. There is no way in hell that 75 kids all are exactly at the same point. That really, really hit me, as thinking, these poor teachers, the stress and pressure that they're under. And when I had a wonderful kindergarten, my grandson had a wonderful kindergarten teacher. She left after her first year of teaching. She had no support. She had to be here and so a date. She had to be teaching this. There was no freedom for her to be creative. And that really hurts.
So what do you think about, I agree with you that I think that we're not focusing in the right area and we maybe need to take our foot. I find that the closer education gets to the parent, the better it works. So same way with the decision, because every community is a little different. Not everybody, as we say, we're all shaped by our environment, our genetics, and our life experiences. So not every child comes to the party of learning with the same capacities as each other. So what do you think about abolishing the U.S. Department of Education and make all educational systems a state level, ran by the state?
Well, that's hard too, because there are some states that are on the cutting edge and leaders and so forth. And there's others that are floundering and need help. So I don't know what the exact answer is. I just think they should be handled at the different district levels based on, your environment, where the kids are.
If I could just start piggyback on Roger's question and switch things back a little bit to the parents, because as he said, the closer you get to the parent, the better education, because you're connecting with individual child and individual learner. So we work with a lot of children. What do you see the parents saying and responding when they, because most parents don't know about cognitive skills either, but when they do, what do you see happening?
I think the biggest, I love when we're through working in BrainWare with the children for 12 weeks, and you interview the children and then you interview the parents. Some of the answers are really incredible. The number one thing I think is the self-confidence and self-esteem. the kids who are struggling really have kind of a low self-image of themselves because they haven't been successful. They don't know what their strengths are, so they don't know how to use them. Once they understand that, and once they see that they can do it, and they change that growth mindset. When you hear students say, yeah, I haven't passed it yet. And I'm like, okay, they've got it. They
That's some good coaching.
Oh, exactly. They understand that it's gonna come, it will be there.
Yeah.
Thinking of some examples and so forth, what the parents say, like I said, the self-confidence is definitely number one. But one student, I like what he was saying. He goes, I said, what have you noticed that's different after working on your cognitive skills and working with BrainWare Safari? And he goes, well, I noticed that Mr. Smith is talking a lot slower this year. Last year, he was talking so fast, I didn't understand. I couldn't take notes. And this year, I'm doing so much better, and taking the notes because he's slowing down. And I'm like, Mr. Smith hasn't changed his speech at all. His processing speed, he can think quicker, he can process, he can take notes, he knows his own learning ability. So that's excellent. Excuse me. I had a parent that we had Susie, and she was a straight A. She was one in my pilot program, and I had a variety of students in that program, but she was a straight A student when she came in. She was a straight A student when she left. Okay, so what do we notice any difference in their cognitive skills? And so we really, as teachers, really hadn't noticed. She was still an excellent student. And when we talked to the parent goes, oh, we've seen a tremendous difference. I said, in what? She goes, in her ability to handle stress. She had, if she got anything below a 95%, she was her own worst enemy. She was beating herself up. No matter what the parents said, honey, it's okay to get a B. It's okay to do this. No matter what we said, it was her own, opinion of herself and so forth. Well, once she got into BrainWare and she couldn't pass some of the levels, and she kept trying, and then she finally passed it. She said, completely different attitude. She can bring home a 90%, or he says, it's okay, Mom, I haven't got it, but I will get it. I just haven't got it yet. I am going to pass with even a higher grade later on. It's all a process. When they hit that wall and can finally break through, that's a tremendous difference. Yeah. And then, of course, the one that I love, my little Tyler, who was a special needs student, a very special needs student. He's autistic. And when I first met with him at our first meeting, I remember at the end of that first 45-minute session, and he's spinning around in his chair, he's ADHD, and I couldn't get his attention, and I'm like, I remember saying to my husband, I don't think I can do this. I'm having such a hard time. He's a kid with a lot of challenges. But we began with BrainWare, and we worked through the program, and I got his attention, and that's probably his biggest improvement, was his ability to focus and his attention. And when we interviewed the mom, she said, we had a family reunion. And she goes, and Lou, I had relatives coming up going, what happened to Tyler? What's going on with Tyler? And he goes, why? He goes, he's so much more personable. He's got eye contact. You can carry on a conversation with him. And that all has to do with the cognitive skills and building up that, those skills and those strengths. And it's very exciting and rewarding when you see kids really blossom. And it's based on developing these cognitive skills. But there's hundreds of examples. And you mentioned your book. Your book is fantastic. And I just happen to have a copy sitting right here. How do you like I don't like that. But what I loved about, not only is it all things that parents can read, it's very easy to read, very easy to understand, but the examples, the stories of our students in here. Very proud of the student at the very end, Taylor, who was a student who had quite a bit of difficulty, and to hear her success story is great. So yeah,
that was really a really remarkable transformation. I mean, it's just
it's good.
I have one last question. I'll let Betsy wrap this up, but I have one last question. Unless we're going to continue to go, I don't know how much time we got here.
Well, we've been going for half an hour, so that's what we say. So we can take another question or two, and then we'll probably wrap up.
Okay. When I was early on in the business and how we sold the product, we had a young lady that was a family counselor in Israel. And at the time, the product wasn't online. It was in a CD and we had to ship it.
Right.
And it cost quite a bit to do everything they wanted to do. And she was so distraught. And we didn't have a full, like now we have a full system. We have a complete program. We didn't have a program then. You know, we were learning what we needed to learn. Now, I don't know if you know, we've over 500,000 people have touched this program. Not the program as we have it today, but our product around the world now in 73 countries in all 50 states. But she was really wrestling with this issue of how she was going to pay for this because she didn't make a lot of money. And then she sent me a note. One of my biggest goofy things in our move, one of our office moves, you know, we're always building into new offices. We lost the letter, or at least I haven't been able to find it yet. Maybe it's not lost, but I just couldn't. And she wrote me a letter, and you could see the teardrops on the letter.
Mm-mm.
And she was explaining that she had no idea how remarkable this experience with BrainWare could be. And she said, if you just could have told me that up front, I'd have mortgaged my house. I'd have robbed a bank. I'd given you $20,000 if I knew this was what the outcome was going to be.
Right.
And no idea.
Right.
And it just touched me. She couldn't have been kinder. This was long before we did video interviews and things, but it just touched my heart. And I said, wow, you know, how do we, in a world where nobody wants to be sold, how do you get that message to a parent in a way that they find meaning to it, that creates a desire for their child to want to have this experience? Because it is powerful. And I've not been able to figure out how best to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think getting the story out, it's the personal stories, the things that you've heard. You've seen the success stories, you've seen the results from the kids, comments from the parents. The more you can interview parents, the more you can interview kids, and see results. You know, statistics are nice, but they don't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. And but it's that personal touch, getting that emotional when you see a kid so excited and anxious to learn something new and see that he can do it. It's that self-image, but and I know it's tough when you're trying to explain what the program is. It's like, okay, where, you know, what's it all about? What is involved? What is it going to cost? And cost is a big factor to many of our families, and that's why we're constantly looking to find scholarships and so forth, because we want to make it available to as many kids as possible. I would love to see it across the curriculum in our schools. You know, you get back to that situation, you would see such fantastic, incredible results. But it's hard breaking through that door because they only have limited funds, and depending what's being mandated from certain, you know, requirements in that. But I think the personal stories is the key. I think once you hear these personal stories and how it can affect their kid, the better.
So
Thank you.
you,
Comments.
Lou, you're kind enough to mention the book, which does
Yes.
have a lot of those stories in it. And we'll put a link underneath about how people can get more information about the book and about some of the other resources that we provide for parents and trying to understand how their children learn. It's really critical for parents to take action, to take responsibility, to understand that, especially for all those kids who learn differently, which is most kids, frankly,
Right.
you know, being able to take on take the mantle, basically take on the responsibility to find solutions that will work for their kids.
Right. I mean, I even had I've been working with this a college student. She's a freshman in college in a nursing, and she contacted me. She goes, you know, Lou, I need some help because I'm failing, and I'm, you know, I like what I'm doing, but I just don't know. And so we spent time going over. She had no idea how she learned. Okay. And here she is in college. Our kids in elementary school should understand how they learn, what their strengths are, and go with it, how to study. All kids study differently. And once she learned that, I remember her calling me immediately. She goes, "Oh my gosh, I got a 95 on my first test." And I said, "See, you've got the intelligence. You just didn't know how to apply it. You didn't know what to do. So building up those strengths is critical, especially, as I said, by the time they get in high school, they've got to have that all mastered, understood of how they learn."
Well, we
So
never
that-
do any training. We do spend a lot of money and time on training our teachers. They get expensive degrees, upskilling, continuous education courses, but we
Mhm.
never spend 10 cents on training our students to be able to learn.
Right.
And it's a tragedy. I mean, especially a lot of times we think it's because of the home or whatever, where they've been lacking, whatever they didn't get. Well, if we really believe that, then why aren't we training our students we train everybody else to do everything. Why can't we train a student to learn? What's so bad about that?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to probably have Lou come back and talk about that another time. We could talk all day. I could
We
talk all
could.
day with Lou.
Yes,
So
yes,
Lou and I
yes,
have talked for the better part of a day from time to time.
yes.
But Lou, I really want to thank you for joining us today
Sure.
and sharing those insights. I think it's important both for parents and for educators to hear from someone with your kind of experience. So we really appreciate it. Roger, is there anything else you want to say in wrapping up?
I'm so delighted to be associated with you ladies.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
And we'll be back again, Roger and I, next week for another cognitive conversation. In the
Okay.
meantime, have a neuron sparking week,
Bye-bye.
Sounds good.
everybody.
Bye now.